11 podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Two Tone. Here with my partners in crime, we got B Love and Arc Sensor. And today, our guest is the lighting whiz, Bobby Gray.
Welcome, Bobby.
Guys. Hey,
Yay!
thank you for having me on. I'm really
Thanks,
excited.
thanks for coming.
We are as well.
Well, let's start way back. Way back, it was 2005 when we first met.
Oh my goodness. Was that when we all went to that bowling alley? I just got my license
Yeah,
then. My goodness.
yep. And I remember because we were in that big group thing and I was so shy and my breakout thing was, man, I really want to go to Memphis in March.
Oh, I know. We ended up going. Yeah.
It's the 311 day, yeah.
Yeah. I guess in my little about me that I'll give you, I'll start there. I should probably start at all that. If you're
Let,
ready.
yeah, let's go.
Yeah, so my name is Bobby. I'm a production and lighting designer, and I've been with the band in an official capacity, I think, since 2011. Fall of 2011 is when I went out and first started working with Joe. But originally I was a fan. And so when I was like a kid, I mean, like 11, 12 years old, my best friend at the time had two older brothers, and them and their girlfriends had, I think, From Chaos in their car at the time. We listened to it. And then I was like one of the first people with broadband internet out of our friend group. And so they would come over and download. Sorry, I'm sorry to the band if you guys ever see this. They would download all the music off Napster, and so we would download all the, they download music from CDs. So I got my music taste from then, and it was all the typical like late '90s, early 2000s stuff. A mix of like 311, Incubus, Cottonmouth Kings, just all kinds of stuff we shouldn't have been listening to at 11 years old, probably. And
Oh yeah.
and yeah, and we had guitars, and so I had like saved up like my grandma would send me like a birthday card with $100 in it, and I'd saved up like eight of these and bought a Paul Reed Smith, the SE version, to play along with and we would play along with the 311 day DVD, the 311 day, I guess, what was it, 2004 DVD.
2004.
The
Mm-hmm.
Red
Yeah,
Runner.
and so we would play along with that, and then and of course finding the music we would get was only kind of the hits that would come through on Napster. We never would dive into all the other stuff. And so there were all these eras amongst me and my friends where we'd be like playing Grand Theft Auto, and in the background we would have been at Best Buy and found the Holy Grail. It was a copy of Grassroots, and we put it on and listened to it, or we found a copy of Music, or we found Transistor, and all these, we would go through these eras of discovering the music, and then trying to play along with it. I was 15. My first concert I went to, I convinced my mom to drive me to Memphis and dropped me off to meet some of my friends. And we went and saw 311 Alien Ant Farm. It was my first show,
Wow.
October of 2005. I've still got the poster with the fish and the pyramid on the wall in my bedroom at my mom's house. Is still hanging up there.
Nice.
And yeah, and so I sort of didn't know what I wanted to do for a living, and my friends had a band, and music was a big part of our lives. We'd play along to music, and to these DVDs with our guitars at home, and I knew I wanted to get into production, but I didn't know what. And so I found I was working in a theater in Paducah, Kentucky, the little town near where I grew up, and I found the lighting team to be more fun to work with than the sound team. They were a little less pretentious and stuffy, and I got really into lighting. And I kind of was like 17, and it was summer of 17. I think we went to see. I think it was Incubus at the time, and this guy Joe Paradise was the front of house. He was at front of house. He was the lighting designer for Incubus, and I had looked up the names from the credits of the Red Rocks DVD Incubus had out, and found Joe's name and read a bunch of articles about him. At the time, he was doing 311, Deftones, Incubus, System of a Down, and like just all the big rock bands of the early 2000s. He'd done
Man.
a string as the tour manager for the Insane Clown Posse, and the wild stories he had from that were just wild. But anyway, I look him up, and I walk up to him. I'm 16, 17, and I'm at front of house. He's got his headset on. It's changeover. So a lot of times before the show at changeover, something we don't carry are spotlight operators. So you have to give these very detailed spot instructions to the spotlight operators in every city that you go to. And it's a crapshoot. Sometimes you get great ones. Sometimes they are literally, you need to administer Narcan halfway through the show to keep them going. This is not even a joke, and it's happened. And it's crazy. It's really wild depending on who you get. And so he's there and he's giving spot instructions, and I walk up and I'm like, "Hey, are you Joe Paradise? I've been looking for you for years." I know first thing he thought is I'm some his illegitimate kid that's come to find him somewhere, and he takes his headset off. He goes, "Yeah, I'm Joe. What do you want?" And real grouchy. He's a north. He's from the Northeast. He's a pretty grouchy guy, and he was known for not being the nicest all the time. He was very serious, aggressive, successful designer type, and he says, "Yeah, what do you want?" And I said, "Hey, I'm working at theater, and I looked your name up, and I saw the Red Rocks DVD. I want to be you when I grow up. Do you have any life advice for me?" Joe, with a cigarette in one hand and a Corona in the other, says, "You want life advice? You go be a doctor or a lawyer, an accountant. I hate this. I hate this, and like I'm exhausted, and I'm tired." And I don't think he said I hate this. I shouldn't misquote him. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was very adamant that I never talk to him again. He said,
Oh,
"Don't ever talk to me again. Go to college. Do anything other than this. This is terrible. You're never going to be with your family. Don't talk to me. Get away from me." So I leave. And then fast forward, and they played Memphis in May, Beale Street Music Festival. 311 did, and I knew the guy, a guy from the lighting company. It's pouring rain, and so I go to the front of house tech, and I'm like, "Hey, Alex, let me in. It's raining. Can we get under the tent?" So I'm standing under the tent. I did not know Joe was going to be there. I knew he'd been with Incubus, but he comes walking out to front of house at changeover, and he looks at me, and I didn't say anything to him. And he's like, "Hey, I told you not to be hanging out around these gigs. Like, what's wrong with you? Yeah, Lee." And he's kind of yells at me. And then he goes, "Well, hey, it's just park hands. All you do is press a button and they change colors." He's like, I'm going to go back to the bus." He's like, you can take Snoop Dogg and 3 6 Mafia, and I'll just, I'm not going to come out there. And found out later, I'm sure at the time, I think he was, had agreed to run the opening acts. He's like, "You just go ahead and run them." So first light show I do, I'm standing there, I'm banging the park hands to 3 6 Mafia and Snoop Dogg. And it was a cool experience. And after it was over, Joe kind of gives me his email address. He's like, "I'm adamant that you don't do this for a living, but if you're ever in Fort Lauderdale, look me up." And yeah, so one thing led to another, and my history is that I from working in the theater in Kentucky, I started working as a technician for Disney. I worked for Disney in Anaheim for about a year and a half. And in between that, I toured with these guys called Nothing But Strings. They played violin over hip hop music, and they were on America's Got Talent. And then they had this very brief career where they were playing corporate gigs to the tune of like 250K a night. And they came through Paducah and had never heard themselves in their audio monitors before. And I was able to mix their headset mics in so that it didn't feed back. Two brothers from Jamaica, Queens, New York. And they're like, "Hey, Bobby, you got a passport? You want to go to Japan tomorrow?" And I ended up going all over the world with them. And so while I was at
wow.
Disney, and at one point I looked up Joe because we had a show. I would freelance working for them on the side, on my off time from Disney. And I looked up Joe when we were in Fort Lauderdale doing a show, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll have lunch with you, but you got to listen to everything I got to say." And he kind of sat down. He was basically like, "Don't talk. Like it's gonna last 30 minutes, and don't talk." And I sat down, and he gave me a lecture for 30 minutes about all of the brutal parts of doing this for a living that I've now learned firsthand. Especially, I have a wife and a child, and being away from home is rough. I'm
Yeah.
10 years. I've been married 10 years. It works very
Mhm.
well, but boy, he was very real about things I faced. I mentioned I was going on the cruise, and Joe goes, "Yeah, okay, cool." And he kind of arranges with the Rascals. I think I got this like $311 deal to go. I don't remember the full details, but essentially I'm out there and I end up like helping him pack up the lights, and because we had to move from outside to inside, and we had these Mac 101s, these little small movers, and I was just kind of there volunteering. We hit it off, and I ended up helping him call spots. I helped him get this. I think I ran a spotlight at one point when one of the spotlight operators wasn't doing good, and we just hit it off. And so I didn't listen to him. Obviously, I did that in the spring of 2011. And then that's when he called later in the year when I'd been at Disney for a while, and he said, "Hey, if you want to come out this fall on your own time for a couple shows, I'll show you roughly what I do. I need somebody to cover a run going up to 311 Day." While he was going to go program for 311 Day 2012, I went and covered the run ahead of time, and I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never operated a tour before as a lighting director. I probably said that I did at the time, but I had not. And yeah, so I went and spent 5 days on my own dime, leapfrogging cities and doing one-offs with Joe. And It's actually pretty straightforward at the time because it was all park hands. So it's literally you have a button for blue, red, etc. You make sure the guys are lit. You call spots, which is a really complex thing. But if you listen, once you listen to it, and it kind of becomes a soundtrack in the back of your mind when you. I can't hear the music now without thinking of the spot calls. And yeah, so I did. I went through all that, and then I went and ended up in Vegas, where Joe had been in a shop programming the lighting rig for 311 Day, and we spent like 5 days programming. We did 311 Day together, and really hit it off. It was great. And so he invited me to go on tour that summer with them. The lighting as a lighting tech. So my job was to like build the downstage truss every day and build the. We had this underhang with a bunch of lights on it. If you look at pictures of the 2012 rig, it's actually on that VIP poster that a bunch of people have. There's a picture of that rig, and it's a grid of little LED movers upstage. So I would do that. I'd load the rig in, build it, and then I'd go to front of house and start focusing with him. And I ended up kind of becoming his programmer, and it was great. Ended up in the meantime, building a pretty good career as a lighting director, programmer myself, and had a pretty thriving freelance career. And so it got to be where it financially couldn't just go back and be the downstage tech for a while. And Joe was on his own for a couple years, went through a couple of other techs, but I would always come out and run dates that he couldn't. And Joe's a dear friend. Joe is my if I have a father alive, it would be Joe. He taught me everything that I know about the fundamentals of what I do for a living. He taught me not just the technical side of it, but how to light a show, how to focus on what's important, how to deal with the band, you're dealing with big money, you're dealing with a lot of money, you're dealing with a lot of egos, you're dealing with a lot of equipment in the air. Not egos with these guys, but egos with some of these
Sure.
acts you work with. You have no idea what you're walking into. And man, he showed me everything, and not just that, he would take me to the trade shows with him and introduce me to everybody. And I really got to network that way. Joe gave me this massive leg up from being this kind of uneducated kid from Kentucky to like a reputable person in our business. And it's a very small business. The thing about what we do for a living is it's there's like 7 people working. They all know each other, and if you have one bad show, you're kind of out for a long time. And we've all had a bad show. We've all experienced it. So anyway, Joe, my history with the band kind of continues at Joe. It was time for him to retire. Joe had spent a very long time on the road, and Joe got on offer for a full time. He had some health problems and had a full time offer. He's now the technical director for the Hard Rock Live, a big venue down in Florida. It's actually almost on a carbon copy of the Park Theater that we go to in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And so he asked me to go out and train an operator to replace the role. And while I was there, I had a talk with the band, and they had asked me to come out and stay. And I had already a full schedule of freelance work booked, and I just couldn't walk away from it. But that's when we kind of came up with a plan that I would design the shows, kind of come on in the creative role, and so do all the programming, oversee the operator, and so really put a solid show in the can that we can rely on, and train somebody to fill the role and just kind of be the creative person without being there every night. And that is commonplace. Right. So the majority of bands that you see, there are a handful of bands that still carry their lighting designers with them. Fish would be one of them. Like they have Chris Carota. But Chris Carota has a team of people that he rotates in and out. Incubus carries Graham Rolock. They won't play a show without Graham running it by hand. But for these guys, the big move was to try to take this show up kind of a notch from it being park hands and just traditional movers to they wanted to introduce video for 311 Day in 2018 and then take that on tour. And so that kind of presented us with some challenges. So I came on, the challenges being that, it's a band that has been around through multiple generations of show technology, and now it's time to enter this new paradigm with them. And so that's when I came on, and I've been on with them ever since. This will be my 6th year as a production designer. I think this will be my 18, 20, 22, 24. This will be my 4th 311 Day that I've designed, which I've just started working on. Nice. And that's kind of my history. And they're really the best guys. I work for a lot of other people now. I'm very busy, and this is still it feels like coming home when I come back, because I grew up on the bus with everybody in the crew, and I grew up learning how to light a show, and they were so long suffering, with this kid. I'm sure I made so many mistakes. And I know I've made so many mistakes, and they've been just so. It's a family, and it's a really great group of guys, and they're surrounded by a great group of folks around them. So it's a really special camp to be a part of. And I'm really proud of the work that we do together. To be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
should be for
Well,
sure.
to kind of preface this for our listeners, Bobby is the person who designs the backdrop on the LED screen that you see at your 311 shows. Now, I noticed a big change roughly around 2018, 19, 20 from kind of a generic style backdrop to these just super dynamic, like octagon, moving octagons, neon,
Hexagon, hive
hex,
theme.
yeah,
Yep.
the
Hex.
hexagons, and they are so beautiful, man. And it was just like it was so amazing to see this. Talk to me about that change, and when was that really?
That would have been when I came on. So they carried a low res video product the year, I think 2017, the summer of 2017, which would have been the year that I came out and took over for Joe. So that summer, it was just kind of a limited run, and they were carrying a low res video product upstage and kind of just a simple straight truss overhead rig. And so when I came out and talked to them in 2018 or 2017 about taking over for 311 Day in 2018, they knew they were going into the Park Theater, and they knew that there was this massive video install there. So there's a giant 4K screen upstage. There's a projection. It's a 12K projection raster that goes over the surround on the proscenium there. And so something that they and their management were really concerned about was we're going into this video heavy venue. What in the world do we put on the video screens? We had no content at the time. And something about a traditionally, if you're brought on to, let's say, design a pop tour, they'll bring on a content team sometimes per song. So I'll give you an example. One of the major country artists I work with, like Keith Urban, has a, it's a content budget in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and some songs can go over $10,000. For example, when we were in rehearsals for that tour, we had a animation team that consisted of probably 5 or 6 people just animating content, right? So you have one of there's a song called "Let Your Horses Run," and he said, "I want a horse galloping, and I want it to be made of smoke." And it's literally like creating a Pixar film. So you have a team of guys modeling a galloping horse. You have a team of guys animating the horse galloping. You have a team of guys in a program called Houdini, which are creating a particle render that makes that horse smoke. You have a post process that goes through. It's a full on. You're creating a 3D full blown motion graphics piece for this, and it's a very big build out for content. And it's another example of that is I just did SNL with an artist named Noah Khan and Kahan. I hope I say his last name right. And it's the same thing. We flew in animators. There's no telling what they spent on the content to make this parallax effect, make it look like the screen upstage at SNL is continuing off into the distance and blending into the set that we built downstage. We don't have that. We didn't have that coming into this. There's just there wasn't a budget to build out, you know tens of thousands of dollars per song, much less these guys have a massive catalog. What's their catalog? 180 songs now. At the time it was almost that much. And so we have this challenge of what do we do, how do we build out content. And I had sent out bids to some content houses, and nothing was going to be within our reach. The content alone was going to blow out anything nearly to what we could even spend on lighting. And so at the time in 2018, the first time we came in, I brought in my friend Jack Banks, who he and I had just done the Apple Music Festival together in London. And the way that works is we're tasked with, we had 30 shows in 30 days, and you have a headlining artist, you have one day to put the show together. So you have, for example, one day Elton John comes in, he plays an 8-song set. We have 6 hours in the morning prior to our first camera look-see to build out a look for 8 songs. We have a camera look-see where we refine it, and then we do a full rehearsal, and then we run a show that goes out to millions of people. So I knew he was up for this because we had worked together and worked very fast, and we'd been through some A-list acts. Some of them brought their own content. Some of them he was able to wing out of a catalog of what we call stock content. And when you say stock content, I'm not talking about Adobe stock, but there are multiple packages of like motion graphics, stock motion graphics, but none of them look good and polished. And so for 311 Day, we got through by using a lot of live camera effects, and we were able to kind of blend things together. What we figured out what worked was taking stock content that can be sourced in the thousands of dollars in lieu of the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then treating it. And so I brought that in. 2020 is the first time I'd say we really had the content that I wanted us to have on at the show and in the tour. That 311 Day 2020 with the triangle pods that came in was the first time we got it. I got it. I felt like 2019 to an extent too. But what we would do is pull in stock content from, I've got dozens of sources and also just from friends that make content that have stuff we can pull from, and we try to layer it. And so we just go with themes. So if you like watch Freak Out right now, it has a CRT static theme. And then you'll notice that we treat it with like some chromatic aberration so that the edges get, it's a little different. We'll put a vignette on it, or we'll blend different things together. So for example, I made the video content for Beautiful Disaster, and that is a really high resolution video of the sun and the cornea of the sun, and then behind that I just took video some of the lights from previs from my studio actually, and had them bouncing back and forth in time to the music, and it's layered. And so what we're able to do on a budget is create these really rich and dynamic looks based off of some existing stuff. Then we produced some of our own content too. We took the guys into a green screen studio and shot the content for Come Original, which we're super proud of. And then
Looks
I've made
amazing.
a lot of the bespoke pieces I've made too. So a great example was Freak Out. In 2020, the idea was to, they were going into their 30th anniversary. They were about to go onto that tour that got canceled because of COVID. And we wanted to make it a retrospective of their career. And it's really, if once you get to know them, these guys are 5 friends from high school making music, and that's what they still are. And so we had done the basement set, which I thought was really cool. That basement set we
What's
did in
the best
2018.
lighting ever?
It was great.
Well, it was simple, and that was Bellis's idea. So Dave Bellis, who is the band's longtime monitor engineer and production manager, is really a creative partner on this, because he's the one who has to get in the spreadsheets and find out if we can afford any of this crazy stuff we want to do. He and I bounce ideas back and forth, and we really get together on creating a narrative and a concept that we can then take to the band and sell. And hey guys, we need a lot of money to do this. Help us.
Right.
And he's really a collaborator. So he got the basement set like put together. I mean, we got pictures of the actual basement they used to play in, and then we got their moms to send some of their old clothes and boxes.
Nice.
And I mean, we were really proud of how that turned out.
I wore this
That's
for our
his
first
parents'
gig.
basement all over.
And all of our first photo shoots.
I've got the
music.
I remember it. I got the boots from my first show.
Unity.
They were in the docks.
Don't say it yet.
So to try to build on that and continue on the theme of like a 30-year retrospective of these guys, they were opening with Freak Out, and I was able to I had this idea of let's find video of them playing Freak Out, because one of their first songs through the years. And so one of the video, I mean, I want to say it was Chad's mom. So one of the moms pulled out a VHS tape of their first show, or one of their first shows, and they were kids. They were really young, and it's them playing Freak Out. And then I had it, all the way, everywhere I could find it. And the challenge is they didn't play to a click. So they played those songs at different speeds throughout their entire career. And now they're on a click. So they're on time code. So what I had to do was actually time stretch throughout the entire song. And I bet there's 600 points in some of those videos where I time stretched to align it so that the videos all synced up. And then in the middle, we had that opening that had the live IMAG. And so there was all these TVs showing them play these songs through the years. And in the middle, it's them tonight playing it. And it was, I teared up. I thought it was a pretty cool moment to do that. And it was all synced up. So no matter which one you were looking at, it looked like, the music synced exactly to all of those old videos. We did the same thing for Visit, and I think a couple other songs. And they were the only ones that we had all of the old original footage that we were able to sync up. And so I was really proud of that. I know Evan touched on the infamous me. I used one of those Make Your Pet Talk apps, and I rapped along. That came from Yanni, who was the band's tour manager for a while. And Yanni was like, I want to animate the posters. We got to animate the posters. And so I was able to animate the alien. That was cool once. It's been nixed. I think it's a little scary and maybe a little tongue in cheek. It's been nixed from the content, but it was there. But so we've been able to create a lot of really cool and bespoke pieces without going too crazy on the budget. And then we've also been able to pull from a lot of just a wealth of resources of content and treat it. And so that's the process. And creatively, I've been a fan of the band for so long, and I work for so many other bands that maybe I'm not quite as passionate about, and it's just a job at some, but for these guys, we really care about them. We want it to look good. We want it to be special because they deserve it, right? They deserve it's a great band, and they're great guys, and so I try to really put in a bunch of time and work into it. The band's touring operator for a long time was Alex Paraluelos. He's moved on he's working for Usher now and working for a bunch of big acts. But Alex was with me from the start in getting getting the video created together. He brought it was his media server we brought into it, and we here at my house would just crack on and trying to program this stuff. And it was a little arduous at first because it was a learning process for me. I'd never put content together for a tour before when we really started, and so we were able to build our knowledge base together and get into it. So that's kind of the video side of it. It was a learning experience, not just for the band, for us, but for the band and for everybody. And it's a constantly evolving thing, but keeping it the way that we're doing it, right? Having this repository or this library of content allows us, because there's only a handful it's not all the songs are tied to a time code or click. There's a lot of songs that are really dynamic, and they are a jam band at heart, right? Like they have their jammy parts. And I think a great example was we played those 2 Belly Up shows this year in Colorado, and I went back out and ran those, and it was like songs they haven't done in a long time, like Nick's Hex and stuff. And so I'm doing all that stuff. Whoever's operating the lights is doing all that stuff live. So we have a punt page for the lighting where, like the band Fish, where Kuroda does everything by hand live and just feels it and jams it. We're doing that for a lot of these songs. And then the same with the video. We've got what we call a video punt page, and it's literally 2 layers that can blend in with each other in different effects. We can turn it black and white. We can make it jitter. And so, if it's like Nick Hex's, for example, I took a lava lamp clip, and then I put some static over it, and so I could slide the static in, and you can affect a lot of things in real time. So you can affect the speed, you can affect direction, you can affect color. And so we're literally jamming along with them and trying to create a vibe around it. And the most important part of it is lighting them. We're there to see them, so we're trying to make them the focal point of it. Notice, we want them lit and the primary thing you see on stage. And then we're trying to I try to create a feeling and a vibe around that so that you really feel like you're inside the song when you're at the show. Sorry, I'm rambling.
No, that's what we're here for. We're here to hear your side. But I know whenever I heard that you were starting up on the production team, I'm like, there is someone who intimately knows their music so well, that
I was a rabid fan.
Right.
Well, I guess
I knew you would come in and give it justice. And
Yeah.
it really has been something to watch how it changed.
I think the world of those guys, and I mean it's also, shoot, they've put a lot of trust in me. I mean, here's some kid that showed up. They could have had him up there looking ridiculous, right? And I probably I've had them looking up there ridiculous a few times, and I'm learning. And so for them they've been very long suffering and had a lot of trust in me to give me the chance to do it. And it's honestly, I'm super indebted because I've been able to use these beautiful shows that we put together for them as marketing, and I've built a whole career around it and worked for a lot of other folks, and I've gotten accolades and a lot of I've been able to just build a reputation by working for them that has carried me into a lot of other great situations.
That's great.
Do you guys want to see some plots? You guys want to see how we do it?
I have a question real quick.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You got any questions? Yeah, throw them at me.
Oh yeah.
Evan, we talked with Evan a couple weeks ago. He mentioned that you sent an email to someone in the very beginning about trying to join.
I want to keep it positive. It's a small business, so I want to keep it positive.
I was going to say it was cool to meet a
No
person.
names.
It was cool to meet another person whose love
He
for the
already
band
told
and
the story.
excitement got them involved in the camp in the first place, similar to me. And I had a question based on B-Love's question. Where did the motivation to continue going? But now that I've met you, I can totally tell you love the band. You're positive. You
It's a
know your shit,
passion.
and you're
I
passionate, and yes, that's exactly it.
I
So
love what I do for a living, and yeah, and I got into doing what I'm doing by sending hundreds of cold emails, and some with some great responses and some not so great. And yeah, it's a small business, and there's a lot of people I'm gonna have to come back across again. So
well,
I'm out.
we won't dig it.
Let's.
We won't dig into the incident, but we'll all say that we can agree that we're happy that you didn't let it get you down. You continued going forward, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
brought us
I,
what we
I,
got.
I've got a, I have a, I've run into, there's a few people that are just jaded, and I've probably been just as jaded too.
You're
Can you hear me?
listening. No, you're listening to the music of 311. Like you got the attitude. You're
Yeah,
continuing
yeah,
forward.
they're positive. You never hear that. You never hear them talking negative about anybody. And I need to work on doing that myself, than not. Um, but
Well,
and that the
I love just the story because it falls in line with how you just have a problem with taking no for an answer or don't do lighting, stay away. And
well,
you're like,
Yeah.
it
nah,
would have been a
I'm going to
great
do
thing
it
to listen
anyway.
to. I'd probably be a really happy attorney right now if I had, but I'd have a lot of debt. I'd probably have a lot more debt. So maybe it's not a, maybe it was the right choice. I don't know.
I think
Um,
it's in the stars, buddy. You're just meant to be where you're at, and no one can stop it.
I
I
appreciate you
got
saying that. It doesn't feel like it all the time. I have some great days at work and some really tough days at work, as you can imagine,
yeah.
especially on these other projects, man. Working that's one thing that I don't take for granted is that these guys are so great to work with and that they put so much trust in us. I mean, they're pretty hands off on the creative. I mean, we get a direction and I've probably gotten 5 or 6 notes in the duration of my time doing this, but they put a lot of trust in us to just make it good. And so that I got to give them a lot of credit for that because I don't know if I was spending the amount of money they have to spend on making this all happen, I don't know if I'd be quite as trusting as they are with
Well,
all of us.
we've all heard
Yeah,
a few, more than a few people around the camp say that they're grateful and feel very lucky to have you around as a fan to
I'm
bring
grateful to
what
be
you've
part of it.
brought. Yeah, it's reciprocal. That's what you need to know. You know,
Oh, great.
definitely,
I appreciate that because sometimes it's tough, man. And I mean,
no
I
doubt.
tell you what I'm looking at. I'm looking at 311 Day right now, and we're in this same building for the fourth time now,
Mm,
and the shape of that building doesn't change. The shape of that video wall doesn't change, and the shape of that proscenium doesn't change. And so, how do we do something else creative? Because the thing we did last year with the portals is like I actually did an interview in a lighting magazine, and they were saying, how do you keep working for the same band and keep it fresh? And something I put in there is like, man, that shape of that building is not changing. And I put the show in. We put the show. It was not just me. It was a team of us. Put a show in last year that was exactly what I always wanted this band to look like. Those hexagon portals, the overlays of the video, and trying to break up the plane of that video wall. Which actually, if I can share screen, I'll pull up the plots for that because I think
Yeah.
that was probably my favorite thing. Let's see. So yeah, so this software is called Vectorworks. It's a CAD software that's kind of specific to the lighting and production side of things. And so what we have in here is kind of a base model of the Park Theater in Vegas, and then this is where we do everything in 3D. So this is kind of an orthogonal view of the
wow.
311 day design from last year, and then we can go into perspective view and literally fly around and see what it's going to look like from every different perspective in the venue. And this is what we use, and this is what gets built.
Nice.
So this was the final design that was sent out to the vendor to have built. You can see we had strobe lights mounted on the front and a bunch of, we call these hybrid beams. They're called Mega Points. It's a company named Rovi out of the Czech Republic that makes these lights. And then we had our hexagon. I guess these are hexagon or octagon, whatever they are. We had these pods in the top, five pods for 5 band members. They're on automation motors that could fly in and out. And those get plated onto actual blueprints, which are build drawings, which get actually sent out to our vendors to build. So this would be the plot that is
Wow.
sent out to quote. We have a plan view of each piece. We have the portals, a design for a list of the floor fixtures and their positioning,
Oh,
a
wow.
section view which shows the height of everything, and notes on the build for what mode that they all go into. And so this all gets built by Chris Harshfield. We call him Grandpa. He's our main, the band's crew chief and master electrician that's been with us since I started as the production designer. and we had a team of folks that then come from the venue, not from the venue, from the vendor, I should say, that build this, and it's pretty massive build. It all gets hung on chain hoists and built out. This is really effective for us to go in here and figure out what works and what doesn't work. So we can go in and fly around and figure out like sight lines and make sure that, you know, if you're sitting in a seat here, that the trusses on the side aren't blocking you from seeing the band. And it really just gives us an idea of what'll work and fit in the space. And then let me share a different window with you. So we do renderings. We pre-program everything virtually in what we call previs, or it's a pre-visualization software. And I'll open that up for you in a second to check that out too. Basically, it's essentially a video game. So we build a 3D model of the stage and the space. We put the lighting rig in it, and you can plug a lighting console like I have here in my studio into it, and it's just like plugging it into the real rig, like it's a video game. So you have literally a full 3D visualization of the entire show out, including the video surfaces, the lighting surfaces, every bit of it, just like you're looking at it in real life. So the first step that we do is we share rendering. So we do a full rendering set. So this is how we present to the band to give them an idea of the creative. This was the first option that we did before I did the portals. So this was what I did based on kind of my first idea was just one portal upstage, and just showing ideas of how the pods work. This is all just a 3D rendering, so it's almost like a video game, and also a line drawing to show them the pods. And I showed them this, and I was like, "Hey guys, this is the cheaper option. You know, the torms on the side hanging here. I think this is what we can afford. This is what we can do." And I said, "But I don't know if we can, but it'd be cool if we could do this." And that's when I pitched the idea of these portals on the side. And I think Evan touched on it that it's a little beyond what we would normally be able to spend and do. But the band was like, you know what, it's our 30th anniversary, let's do it. And they just gave us the keys. And so these are the renderings that we did to sell the um, portals idea to them. Obviously, it's a little different than the fixtures we ended up getting. In fact, I think the fixtures we ended up getting were better. They were brighter strobe lights, but this was the initial concept. And so when we do these renderings ahead of time, it's able to give them an idea of what the stage is going to look like. While we're here, I'll show you a couple other renderings that we've done for them. So this was the summer tour that we took out after that. So this was the summer tour 2021, where we had the same pods. They were not on automation, but we had the pods lined with LED and the two angled screens. I actually did this in the Hive while we were doing one of those streams during COVID. But we're able to build it out into 3D, and it's pretty cool. I'm going to actually bring up the software so you can get an idea of what it looks like for us. I'll give you an example of one of our another show that I did for another client here. So this is a pre-visualization software, which if you look down here in kind of the line drawing, we bring all the geometry in. This is for a show called We Can Survive that I designed for CBS Radio. It's a benefit that they do every year. And the real magic happens up in this top left window. So if I were to grab all of a certain fixture type of lighting, for example, we can turn it on, we can change its color, we can tilt it, make it move, and it's literally like looking at a concert. I don't have it plugged into the console, so I can't do any of the like really fun dynamic stuff, but this gives you an idea. And so we're able to program the show as if we're in the venue and doing, you know, like they're with the band. And so it gives us, you know, without having to pay to have the rig hanging, gives us time to get everything programmed ahead of time. So like for 311 Day, I'll start programming a couple weeks out before the show, do it all virtually from my studio here. And we're able from here to export, you know, those renders that the band sees. It gives them an idea of what they're going to be playing under and looking at. We can do some really complex things like focus lights in one individual position. We can fly around the room and look at it, see what it's going to look like from anywhere, and make a lot of creative and design decisions without it costing us any money because it's all virtual. So we're able to really get deep within the creative process before it's too late to change things. And everything is done in 3D virtually. We can figure out what we want to do. And the video surfaces themselves too also play along. So like I'm able to bring in video clips ahead of time and literally visualize the entire show before it happens. And for a lot of these shows, you know, we can do the branding ahead of time. and show them what their branding's gonna look like. I'm designing a show benefit on Maui, and so they, we're kind of only over there for a couple days, but we're able to ahead of time go through and really get deep and show them exactly what their show is going to look like by doing stuff like this in previs. So this is one of the tools in our arsenal. We take it from CAD into this, which is almost like a game engine, and go through and really try to build out a lot of dynamic looks for these shows. And I'll show you one more thing. We're able to actually export videos from all of this as well. So if we go into this is a band called Twice, which was a K-pop band that I did a Tonight Show design for. But we were able to send them a full video. Sound comes through, but we can actually send them a full video of what their show looks like.
Wow, this is crazy.
Very
They're
cool.
not dancing like K-pop people dance.
You have to use your imagination, B-Love.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it. That gives you an idea of the stuff that we can do. So we're able to really get dynamic with it and show people what their product is going to be before they get into it, right? Like before we have this expensive stuff, equipment in the air, and dozens of people on the payroll working. We're able to really get into 3D and figure out what works and what doesn't. It puts us in a good position to come in and have a great show when we get there.
Dude, that looks amazing. It's so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it is. It was. It was at one point in time when you do it all day, every day, and a lot of bands aren't like 311. They don't like everything you do. You end up getting a lot of notes. You come back to the drawing board quite a bit, and you know, I said my favorite was a certain pop star that I just worked for recently. It said, "I want this song to be magenta," and so I grab all the lights and make them magenta. Oh, not like that though. And it's just like, it's just so it's like
Wrong
you're wrong.
shade.
Yeah.
That's what I call fishing.
Yeah, it's like some of these people, it's like working for the rich people in the Hunger Games, and it's just I don't know how you can take them seriously. To be honest.
So you touched on
Um,
during your presentation on the technology when you were in the Hive during the pandemic, and how did they contact you about that? Any of that technology you were able to use, or were there some new things you discovered during that process?
yeah, well, that was interesting. So the band was really cool in deciding to do a streaming thing. They were great dudes. Those guys kept us all working. I mean, it was not, we all went from having these thriving careers to being at home. And some people went back, a lot of people went back to work, by April, May, or June, and were on Zoom or working remote or went back into jobs in retail. We all went from having thriving careers with arguably more income than we probably should to nothing. And it was staring into the abyss. Try being uneducated and 30 and being a roadie and joining the circus, and now you're just home and you got nothing. And they decided to do a streaming thing, and they like we had a testing regimen, and we were all wearing full on respirators, and it was a whole thing. We had a couple close calls, I think, where nobody got COVID while we did it, which was great. But yeah, so they said, why don't we transform the Hive into a streaming studio? So we were able to buy a handful of off-the-shelf projectors, and we went in and painted the walls of the Hive white. It was Dave Bellis actually really killed himself, and had a team of guys painting in there. And Dave, if you've ever seen Dave at the shows, he's like a little like a wind-up toy that's been wound too tight. He's just constantly running and doing stuff, and he's running out and putting the microphones in. He's the hardest working person in show business. I don't know how he does it. There's no amount of coffee that could make me as energetic as Dave is. But Dave, we got in there, man, and we got some panel lights, and we got some little Astera bulbs, and yeah, did a projection surface. I ended up having to re-render a bunch of video, make new video clips for all of it, because it was a huge raster. It was 4K rasters to make it high res enough that it didn't look blurry in camera. And we have all those projectors still hanging in the Hive. We may do something else cool with them. I don't know. But yeah, so that was cool. So we just once a month went out there and did a stream, and it kept us all afloat. I mean, I wouldn't have been in as good a shape through COVID if they hadn't taken care of us. There are a few other people that did stuff. I did some corporate streaming stuff, but none of it amounted to the fact that they all tried to keep us on the payroll. They got us all back onto the payroll, I should say, and took really good care of us. So we're indebted to them for that big time.
And it kept us all entertained. I mean, there's a lot of a lot of positives. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was great. It was a great time. And so while I was there, they were like, we're going on tour. We're going to do this summer tour, come hell or high water, the kind of thing. And so I just cracked open my laptop and and it was cool because I got to actually sit with them. And that's where we ended up with those triangle. We were able to carry the pods from 311 Day out on tour because we really felt like we were robbed of this amazing, that 50 dates and 50 states tour was going to be amazing with Incubus, and we were just robbed of
It
what
it
was going to
still
be.
hurts that that
It
summer
does.
tour didn't happen.
I
Like,
was calling it the monsters of
or get
90s rock.
rescheduled.
Yeah. It may.
But
It may yet.
The monsters of 90s stoner alternative rock. It was going to be amazing. Oh man. But anyway, we all had some good times together on those streams. That was cool.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I know
they looked amazing. They
Thank
were
you.
they really
they were
did.
looked amazing, and like being in production, I know how technical something like that can be, especially since you're live streaming, which adds a whole nother element to it.
It was
Um,
all held
and
together with gum and paper clips. We were doing the best we could. We were taking the gum out and sticking the lights up and doing the best we
But
could do.
but it
Thank you.
worked.
Yeah. Was it your idea to
Thank you.
put Herb on there? Point.
Which one? Herb?
Herb.
Herb,
Was it your idea to
little
put
Oh, the guy
Herb?
from the music. Is that the name of the character from the music
the
album?
the, the
The
kid,
little
yeah.
the kid. Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to take album artwork from each one of the albums that they played, and so yeah, I took him out and animated him a little bit. I wanted to get him talking, but I never got it
I
done. That would have
loved
been
it.
cool to get him talking.
I
Oh,
loved
I
it.
thought you did.
Did I get him talking?
I think so.
I'll probably so. I gotta go back and
I,
watch those. I'm
I'm
gonna go
pretty
back and see it.
sure. I'm pretty sure I remembered, and I was like, I know who did that
Yeah, I
from the
probably did.
Alien.
Yeah, that was me.
And I remember when those were announced, Peter came to me. He's like, "Okay, I need all the high res content you have for music
Yeah,
and grassroots and Blue Album." I was like, "Okay." Then a little
I've
while
got all
later,
that
he
in
was
a
like,
Dropbox. I've got all that sitting in my Dropbox.
"Yeah." And then later on, he was like, "Do you happen to have anything for sound system?" I was like, "Oh, they're doing 3 more."
Yeah, oh, it was so good. I love those album shows. We did. They ended up playing all the music at those two Belly Up shows in Colorado this year, and that was cool. That was unexpected. I love those album shows, man. They just it's so fun and it's nostalgic and it's great. I love Incubus did that last year too, where they were playing Make Yourself, or it was a couple years ago. And they played Make Yourself, and then they played Morning View, and they were doing these album shows. Man, it was so great to go there and hear them play Make Yourself from top to bottom, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I heard sound system front to back. I was just like, it just hits a special part of
Oh yeah,
nostalgia and awesome.
it was like you're a kid, and you got the CD in your car, right? It's so great.
Yeah.
yeah, the
Well, I
album
don't know what
shows
else to
were really
share, really. You guys have any more questions for me? Anything else you
Oh
want to
yeah.
know?
Let's see. Well, first, Evan made me. He said, when you talk to Bobby next, have him play the solo to lose on a guitar.
Oh no, I'm not here to perform.
Come on
I'd have
now.
I'd have to go get it. All right, twist my leg. Let's go find it here. I've got it somewhere.
Woo.
I have to plug it into now.
We can't hear.
No, we can't
Oh,
hear.
you can't hear it.
That's all right.
That's too bad.
Thank
All
you for
right,
trying.
well,
We're,
we
we'll
tried.
we'll
Yeah.
we'll take that little video edit loop of you, and we'll just
Yeah.
repeat it over the real track
If-
until
you
you.
just
Yeah.
you just need to send me a video. It doesn't have to be,
All right.
of you
That
doing
sounds
it,
good.
and I'll
Yeah,
put
well,
it in an edit.
perfect.
We'll
We want a
we'll see.
video
We'll
with
see about that one.
visuals in the back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all lit. You're on
Yeah.
stage.
I'll get a fan and blow my hair.
Well,
and
yeah.
that'll be really great. Yeah.
Evan said you nailed it. Whatever
Yeah.
skills you got, he said you just knew it
It's
note
funny,
for note.
I didn't even remember that was their lick, and I just was noodling around on the guitar, sitting in the hive, and I grabbed. There's just I think it's Walters, is it like acoustic, or maybe Hillman's, just sitting in the corner, and I grabbed it and I was just noodling around. I didn't even, and it not even for a second did it dawn on me that I was sitting there playing the lick that was that guy wrote, and Tim's walking by. I was just messing around on the guitar, and not for a second I was like, oh no, I was sitting here playing the lick he wrote. And there's been a couple other times I've done that. He's like, no, it's the tab you got was wrong off the internet. Here, let me show you how it's really done. Tim was actually kind enough to send me one of his guitars after one of our tours, and it
Oh yeah.
sits proudly on my wall. This is like my prized possession. It's almost too precious to get off the rack. It sits up there quite a bit, but super. Thank you, Tim, for that.
Beautiful piece. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beauty.
Well deserved.
Any other questions? What else you want to know?
Are there any
Well,
live moments that have stood out at any of the events that you've been a part of that were just? I mean, yeah, you said you're super proud of the 311 day work. You know, the way that you.
Yeah, I think that, man, just that first cruise was such a moment, wasn't it? And we were there as a fan, and just them coming out and being so close to everybody, and us being on. Nobody knew how to act. I mean, first of all,
It seems to be a
like
theme.
none of us knew what to do. We're on a boat with 311. It was cool, and I remember we got to the Turks and Caicos. That guy jumped off the boat. I think we were all so excited.
Oh
We
no.
didn't want to jump off the boat, and it was just that was such a cool experience, and just them creating cool moments for their fans is really cool. I just going to 311 Day as a kid in Memphis and being in the parking lot and just meeting up. It's because there's such a cult following, right? I mean, when I was a kid, I couldn't find. I wanted to order a 311 shirt off the internet. My mom was like, no, you're not going to do that. No way. And and so I remember I made my own. I went to Walmart and I got like the iron-on stuff, and I ironed on my own 311 shirt from
Nice.
stuff
I
I
did
found
the
on the internet.
same.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then of course I wore it every day, and we'd be in the airport. I was like 13, we're in the airport, and I remember our pilot. So I was getting on the plane, jumped out of his seat, and was like, "Hey, kid, that's a great band." He whipped out a tattoo. I just thought it was a cool thing, and it was like this underground. It was, it's like Fight Club, right? Like you find it, and you end up finding all kinds of people that are into the band, and people I work with now, are all like, "Oh, that's a cool gig," and we're doing all kinds. We're doing stadium tours for people, like big, huge shows, and you'd be amazed how many people you meet are like, "Dude, if you ever need somebody to cover 311, I'll come do it. I'll do it for free. What do you need?" And it's really wild. I just it's a great community, man. And so yeah, that moment, all the moments are great, man. I think them playing "I'll Be Here a While" down there by the right in front of the crowd, getting them to do getting it, us. We all have to work to get them out of their comfort zone too, and they love it. They really get into it when we create these special moments. And so I had the basement set. What a cool thing was that. I've got a
Yeah.
really cool idea I'm going to pitch. I don't know if it'll work. I'm going to throw something at them for 311 Day and see if it works out.
Surprises. All right.
But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just even just going and doing that belly up show the other day was so cool. It's so cool taking a big show and taking it into a small venue and taking a big band like them, and yeah, just making it. For some bands, it doesn't work, right? Every band says, "Oh, we want to play intimate shows. We want to have." I think they want to have the feeling of. A lot of bands want to have the feeling of those first shows and the energy, because there is some
Mhm.
energy that gets kind of zapped in an arena or a big amphitheater, but
Mhm.
a lot of them don't do it well. Oh yeah, energy, you got it. But man, for us to play those belly up shows, and it was really fun, and then to go to Red Rocks right after that, and every time they play Red Rocks is a special night. I always come back and operate the shows if I can for those, and yeah, it's cool, man. They and they put so much into it. There's so many bands that either the lead singer doesn't show up for sound check, or they'll barely sound check. They do a line check. They go and they play a handful of songs every single day. They warm up before they go on these tours. Like they're putting everything into making it a really good show. And that's what's given them the longevity, I think, as a legacy touring act, and such a massive touring act, is that they deliver every night. They're not phoning it in, right? They're really serious about it. And these are songs they've been playing 30 years.
Yeah.
For them to rehearse down, you know what I mean? But they
Hey,
want it to be tight. It's pretty wild. And I've definitely learned and been inspired from that and taken that away into my other work too.
they they
Just
they
watch how
called it.
dedicated they are.
They called it way back. If you can't kick it live, you're gonna die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're exactly. Yeah, they're great dudes. What other questions you got? What else you want to
Let's talk favorites.
know? Oh
Let's
no.
get some favorite. It doesn't have to be one.
Songs
Songs,
or
albums,
oh man.
whichever you want to go with.
I just grew up listening to from music to From Chaos, and it's my favorite stuff. I mean, I love when we do those old album shows. They go down the rabbit hole and some of the songs, obscure songs off Transistor and stuff. It's so fun to hear it live because it's a niche thing, and getting to do visuals for that stuff is always really cool too. And yeah, it's great. I love all the old school stuff. New stuff is great too. They're still turning out cool new songs. I can't wait to hear it. I haven't heard the new album yet. I can't wait. It's gonna be good.
What? You haven't heard it?
I haven't heard it yet. Have you?
Oh
Send me
yeah,
the link.
weeks and weeks.
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
Send me the link.
It's not
You're
out yet.
like,
We're
you jerk, you didn't tell me.
nah. We're messing with you.
I think I've signed an NDA. I'm sure I've signed an NDA. So anyway, I don't know.
But,
All right, so I texted one of the band members, and he has a question for you. Not
Okay.
naming the band member. Who's your favorite band member?
Oh no, no, all 5 of them are the best, dude. There's a we couldn't do it without any of the 5 of them. They're the most important.
Oh,
I plead the fifth.
Cop out.
Hey, ask them. Tell them. Say, I guess that means it's okay that I'm doing this. I saw Evan.
Say, just text
I saw
back and
Evan
say,
did.
he said you.
Yeah. He said you were. Yeah. Now, I guess that means I've got
Of
clearance to do
course.
this. If Evan got on, I guess it's okay if I do, right?
It'd be fine.
They're
Yeah,
all
I
great
think
dudes,
you're good, man.
That
We
The fact
was
that
ethnic, by the way.
the fact that the 5 of them get up there and are so harmonious, and I mean, it's really cool, man. Just that there's nothing fake about their performance up there. They're dead serious, and that all of them are so creative, and they have, it's just original. It's really cool. Stuff they do is amazing.
Yeah, and we've had fun on this podcast. Like you're gonna love it too. Like we
I've
talked to
been watching
people
some of
from.
it.
Yeah, I sent you some clips, but um we talked to people from way back. I'm talking
Wow.
91, okay?
Oh man.
Middle school, high school.
And
Yeah.
and even then they were saying they practiced every day. They were dedicated
I want you to find
every
somebody that actually did the
day.
milk challenge.
Ooh.
That would be a pull.
Because I heard it described as just a gruesome event. It sounded terrible at the time. I want to find somebody who
From
actually did the
enlarge to
milk
show
It
challenge.
looked
detail.
terrible too. Yeah.
I want to find somebody who really did the milk challenge. That would be great. Maybe we should bring that back for 311 Day. Let's do the milk. Let's have a bunch of people go on stage do the milk challenge, throw up everywhere. And now everybody's in their 40s and 50s and lactose intolerant. Like it wouldn't even work good. This is gonna be terrible.
It wouldn't just be throw up in that case.
Send our kids up there.
Throw in one back graphic of just like milk spewing.
We
and see
should
if
do the
anybody
milk.
gets-
We should do the milk challenge. Hand out lactate and just go for it. Oh my goodness.
It'll be a sponsor.
I wish I could. I'll tell you. You ask about moments that were really cool. I wish I could play back the first, the first day I ran the show by myself. We were at a venue called the Grove in Anaheim, and I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just doing my best. I got through it, and I was so excited, and there's the excitement of. I was as excited to be at that show as I was to go to the first one that I went to as a kid. And the show is over, and lights come up. I go up, I pack up all my stuff, I get it on the truck, and then you go take a shower, go get on the bus, and the feeling of getting in the bunk and that bus rolling, and you're laying in the bunk on tour with your favorite band, and the rumble of the road, and you're just laying there. It's a crazy experience, and I wish I could capture that and share that. It was a really just a wild night. I don't think I slept hardly at all that night, and I got up and we were in Ventura the next day and did the show the next day. It's a really cool experience, and man, I wouldn't trade that for the world. It was really something special and something I haven't captured. I've had a lot of cool moments at work since then, and but man, that was pretty wild. I felt like I'd made it. It was pretty cool. We on that tour, that run, like my third night, we had this wonderful production assistant named Eriko Nevins, Japanese lady, super super sweet. She'd married Colin Nevins, who's a SGPS. He's an automation tech, like one of the best in the world. And she had moved over here, and the band hit her up, she hit the band up and was like, "Hey, I'm here," and they hired her as production assistant. She's awesome. Erica was so detailed, like she knew exactly how much laundry I had. So like she knew I had like 8 days of underwear because we'd send our laundry out. So on day 7, she's like, "Bobby Gray, you have to it's time for you to do laundry," and she would like, I mean, she was amazing. And she's kind of like our bus mom out there, and
Yeah.
she's looking after us. And so on we go to Wendover, Nevada, which is this just like really crummy town on the border between Utah and Nevada, and it's a
Sorry,
casino town. I
Wendover.
think there's 600 residents, and then on the weekends they have 30,000 people come in to gamble. It's just we're staying in this place called the Montego Bay, which is this just if you've ever been to the Peppermill in Vegas, it's the same motif.
Hmm.
Everything is just like blue mirrors and gaudy and like flamingo print everywhere in the middle of the desert. There's nothing around. It's like being on the moon, and it's like blue carpet and it's the whole place is just gaudy. We're there and we have 2 days off followed by a show. And what I didn't know is that the bus is available for our use on off days. Nobody tells me this. So I take all of my stuff off the bus, literally clean out my bunk. I take everything out, take all of my bags out. I have no idea that there's still like food and a coffee machine and like all the comforts of home on the bus. And I had no idea that it's just right out there in a parking lot, right? So I take all my stuff in the room. I don't see the bus for 2 days. We do the show. So fourth day we're packing up to leave, and bus calls at 8 a.m. And I walk out, and I hear Erica say, Bobby Gray, what did you do? He's here. And she goes running into the bus, and hot, I mean, pissed off was the band's old, he was, I don't know what his role, he was the rigger and security guard at Roscoe. Roscoe taught me how to climb a truss, and Roscoe comes running off the bus, grabs me by the nape of the neck, and is like, "What did you do last night? Why did you trash the bus? What did you do last night? You tell me the truth." And I was like, "Man, I didn't do anything. What are you talking about?" And I get brought on, and everyone is sitting and looking at me, just livid, and the whole bus is trashed. There's a chunk of the bus is like broken off, like this big mahogany piece, and it's just propped up against the wall, the closet with the by the fridge with like the vacuum in it is out, and the fridge the vacuum is out, like just like an upset stomach. There's chips everywhere. Like it looks like somebody took several bags of chips and just trashed the bus. Uh, Everything, it's a wreck. It looks like a bear got into this bus and trashed the bus. And they're like, Bobby, somebody, and what I'd done is after the show, somebody said, "Oh, you can go back on the bus." And so like I'd gone in there and I'd like drank a couple beers and like had hung out, and then I went back to my room. Like, yeah, Bobby was drinking on the bus last night and he trashed the bus. And I'm like, guys, I didn't. And they're like, not another person on this bus would do this. Everybody just reads me the right act. I'm in trouble. I'm told I'm basically thinking I'm getting sent home. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden the bus door opens and Scotch walks on, and Scotch just looks disheveled. And he goes, "Oh, sorry, guys, I didn't get this all cleaned up." And everybody turns and says, "What? It was you?" And I was like, they were like, "We would have never believed you, Bobby. What happened?" Scotch's like, "Man, I got on here last night and I tried to open a bag of chips, and it was the old chip bag trick." And we're like, "What's the chip bag trick?" And they're like, "Well, where they like open it and then they roll up the bottom, so when you pick up the bag, they spill everywhere." What had happened is he just grabbed the bottom of the bag of chips, and it was already open from the top, and he just opened and they spilled everywhere. Then he tried to get the vacuum out, and when he did that, it somehow broke the wood piece off. It was just chaos, and he said it was so bad that he just decided to go to bed and sort it out the next morning, then overslept. And so I almost got blamed for the trashing the bus, and it wasn't me that trashed the bus. It's a great Scott story.
That Grove show, you remember who opened up and what year that was?
Would have been 2011, I think, or early 2012.
When do you remember when Sons of Bitches opened up for 311 at the Grove? And do you know who Sons of Bitches are?
No.
It's JT's side band or JT's
Who?
band. JT
Walters?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. All I know is he's got a song called Bill. Have you ever heard that one?
No.
It's You're talking about Jason Walters, the guy from The Hive.
Yeah. So he had a band called Sons of Bitches, and Chad came out in a costume, or not a costume, but a fake beard and a hat with hair, and played drums for him on one of their shows. And it was the Grove, and it was early, so.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been the one I did, I don't think. I don't remember who opened for us on that one. I'd have to look it up. I think we just had we had Willy Wonka out there with us, or we either had Soul Man or Trichrome with us, I think. It was just a DJ. Yeah. I think they were driving from city to city too. They always looked wrecked when they got there. It was rough. I know we had a couple bands where they were driving like bandwagon style, and they always looked wrecked. I always feel so bad for them. Oh,
the road is tough.
That's cool though, man.
Yeah.
You
What
got to
else you want to
find out
know?
that date. You got to be able to answer that date question. Like, what day was it?
Yeah. I probably
It
only
was
got about 5 more minutes, so I don't know if you guys got any more
Okay.
questions or if there's anything else I could tell you. Anything else you want to know?
Um, let's see. I had a list, and then you like covered like
I'm
almost all of
sorry.
it.
Yeah.
I rambled. I got too excited. I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
No, you're
it got
fine.
covered. It
I mean,
all. I mean,
you
yeah.
gave us
Did
all
I
the information we were gonna ask anyway.
did I botch
Yeah.
the format of this podcast? I've never done a podcast before. I'm sorry.
You're fine, man.
nailed it.
Um,
Nailed
is
it.
there any particular interactions with the band members that you'll just never forget personally?
I mean, just honestly, just years of working with them and getting to learn and come out there with them has been amazing. They're just the best guys. Everybody's super cool. When I was 18, I flew to LA and was working in theaters on gigs that I'd gotten off Craigslist, and I just drove up to Chad's drum shop. And Linda, his mom, was there and it was so sweet. And she fed me lunch. She had like Italian beef in the crock pot, and she fed me lunch. And she told me something then that has stuck with me. Because she'd been around Hollywood for a long time, and she said, it's a way smaller town than you think it is. You're gonna make it. You'll be fine. Because when I kind of told her what I wanted to do for a living, and then she ended up getting Chad to come down, and I met Chad. I've got my picture with Chad there. That was a pretty cool moment that he would take the time to drive down from his house and while I'm having lunch with his mom. Linda's a really special lady. She's super sweet. But honestly, just through the years, all of them are so cool. And everybody's, you know, they've all had plenty of tips for me. I've become a new dad, and so they've all been really understanding about me not traveling as much. And it's a family. It's a really great group of people. Everybody that's out there, and frankly, in the crew too. I've grown up with everybody, and we've all grown up together out there. And I came in younger than the rest of them. They were all a few years ahead of me. But like Manly, his little boy is so sweet, and Scotch, watching Scotch have kids, and Christina, they're just wonderful folks. Ryan is a dad now. I guess you can talk to him.
Recently, yep.
Hillman, all those years with Hillman where he had kids, and it's just it's easy to imagine what we do for a living as being sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but it's actually a group of really skilled people that are really professionals and really care about their job. And yeah, something about this I appreciate too is just the career it's given me because I've been able to take all the stuff I've learned with them, from them, and from working with them, and really build it into another career. I'm nominated for 2 Emmys this year. We're going to the Emmys in 2 weeks.
Wow, congratulations.
And I've gotten to do stuff like stadium. I mean, we're doing stadium tours. I've worked for like BTS. We did their big stadium tour when they first came into the States. I designed Sam Hunt last year, a guy named Jelly Roll. We're talking like 10 to 12 truck tours. I just did the Formula One race in Vegas. We just did a show for TikTok that had 10 million viewers on it, which will be on Disney Plus. You can see it this weekend if you want to see a bunch of you want to imagine me sweating and trying to run a 5-hour music show that we had 2 days to rehearse. It's really, this job has taken me around the world, and I've gotten to meet some really special people everywhere. And I really owe it to bands like 311 and their crew, people like Joe and everybody else. I mean, all the people I've grown up with out there giving me a shot as a kid and letting me come learn what works, make mistakes, not make mistakes that are not, and not let it be the end of my career. And yeah, it's really invaluable because there's so many bands that don't allow that and wouldn't be quite so welcoming. It comes from the top with these guys, and they surround themselves with people that are that way. And so I think that's why we all really care about making it special in return, right? We want them to have a good show, and we want them to have a good product, and make them look as cool as possible. And hopefully they keep doing it for a long time because it's really fulfilling for all of us. I know.
Here. Yes, agreed. Yeah.
Amazing. Good luck on your Emmy, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to win or not. I'm looking at the two. I've got the certificates on the wall over there, and I almost wonder if it's like bad juju to put them on the piano or something. But they're over there by the computer back there. But
Either way, you're nominated.
yeah,
That's
right.
something on its own.
I went and got my tux yesterday. My wife is extremely excited. She's got her dress, and then I'm taking my parents. I'm taking my mom and John. It's going to be cool. I'm nominated for two. We've
Man,
got one
hope
for
you get
American
it.
Idol last year, and then I did a show for Disney Plus called Encanto at the Hollywood Bowl, which is a
Yeah,
good one to go check out if you get a chance to watch it. And
that
then
was phenomenal too.
It was fun, man. It was wild. It was a lot of work to get it done. And then yeah, next year we got Sam Hunt going out back out again, and then I'm working on a big show in the Philippines for an artist there in Manila at the beginning of February, and then we've got 311 Day coming up, which is cool. And I don't know what else. My schedule is kind of filling in as we go. So super excited. The band's going to Europe, right? That's going to be exciting. I
Yeah,
can't wait
Yeah.
to see that.
It,
for
The
sure.
it's
summer. I don't know how much they've announced yet or not, but they've got whatever. I'm not supposed to say probably, but they're going to play some
well,
shows this year.
we
They're going to
got
look.
quite a few dates. We got England, Poland,
Yeah.
France, uh, Germany.
I'm bummed. I wanted to go to Japan, but I was super excited about going to Japan. But I've got another gig that I've got to go look after that I confirmed months ago before I found out about
Right.
Japan.
Another commitment.
Well, here's a question:
That's
how
the
long is it before we see your work fill in the Sphere in Vegas? You talk about a
uh,
You want to talk about a budget?
we actually went and visited some of our colleagues that put the U2 show together out there, and it's
That
a
had to have been.
technological marvel. Yeah, I had dinner with the production designer for U2 the other night. Actually, we were all in town for F1, and we went out and had really bad Indian food. It was terrible. But to hear them talk about it was really cool. I mean, Fish is going in there, right?
Oh,
Can you
okay.
imagine all the Fish fans they're going to get trying to
Wow.
find the bathroom? Like,
Wow.
I can't
U2
imagine.
was the first band, correct? First band to open up
U2
the
is the
venue.
first band.
35
I know
show run, I believe.
Fish is going in there. I don't know who else. I've heard rumors. I don't know if they're public yet or not. But
Yeah,
it's mainly pop
it'll
kind
have
of
to get
stuff. I
filled.
don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. One of my really good friends is the lighting designer for the weekend, and we work together quite often. And I think he said something about I don't think it's the weekend, but he's got an artist going in there, so maybe we'll work together on that.
Hope so, man. That's great.
311 in the Sphere. Let's go.
Oh yeah, it'd be great if you get everybody to buy the tickets up front. Like maybe let's just crowdsource it. Let's say if we come to them and say we've sold out the Sphere, we just haven't booked you yet. Do you think, I think they'd be thrilled to. You guys all gonna be 311 Day?
Yep.
Yeah, pop out front and see us.
Probable.
Jenny, you're not?
I can't. But
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, it happens.
It's okay. I'm gonna be tired, and I guess I'm gonna take Noah. Well, I guess I got to get Noah some little headphones and take him out there. We'll have him running cables and plugging lights in. See how
Yeah,
it looks.
he's gonna be the future of lighting design.
Let's hope
Phil
not. Let's
Noah.
hope he's a doctor, or a lawyer, an accountant, or anything other than this.
Well, if he has a creative side, then the lawyer thing isn't gonna work. You know what I
I don't
mean?
know. You could be a pretty creative lawyer. I know some
Well,
pretty creative legal folks.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I better get down and
Yep.
I've got to get the grill going for the family. Thank you guys very much for having me. I'm really honored to be a part of this. Thank you for what you're doing for our community and for the guys. Really, to do an oral history of the band and to get this put together is something really special that I think I'm sure they appreciate, and I know a lot of us will be able to appreciate looking back on.
We hope you
this
enjoy it
inside
yeah.
look.
and appreciate you being a part of it, man. It's a big chunk and a huge part of history. So thank you again.
Yeah, honored to be here, man. Thank you guys very much. Keep in touch. Hey, we're back. Feels like we just talked 3 weeks ago.
We did, but so much went down since then. We gotta
So,
talk
Mr.
311
Beloved,
Day.
tell us. So you were in the audience. How was it? Did you have fun? Are you a satisfied customer?
Dude, I loved it. I loved it so much. It was immersive is probably an overused word, but super dynamic and fun. And I didn't really watch from the rail except for maybe like 5 to 6 songs, but when I did, you're really right there, and your peripherals get the full visuals, and it's just also great to step back and see it from afar, where for more of your perspective. It was great, man. I loved it.
I haven't seen it from up close in so many years. I don't ever go down there, and so I always wonder. I try to be careful with the focuses to not just blind the front rail and not just make it too intense, because like light exponentially gets stronger. Every time you get a little closer to it, it just exponentially increases, and so being in the front, it's a way more intense experience than it is sitting all the way back where I'm at. So where I'm at, of course, we're trying to expose it to camera too, so we're trying to put a lot of thought into levels of things. But I always worry, like at the front, is it just crazy strobing intense experience, or is it still enjoyable up there? Well, they played a heck of a set. I don't know how they can do it, man. Those guys, what was it, 86 songs in 2 days or something? I don't know how they can hold up. That's crazy.
I was so tired by the end of the second night. I could barely stand for probably like the last few songs, and I was just looking for a place to sit down. And security wouldn't let you sit down on the second rail guard, so I faked like I was changing batteries for like 2 minutes and on my camera, and got to sit down for a second. But I was just going, how the hell are they doing this, man? How?
I don't know. I thought the same thing, man. They've got stamina. They're staying in shape and taking care of themselves, because the stamina, I mean, good God, I'm sitting back there at a computer drinking coconut water, and I feel like I've got my hands full. I'm pretty busy, but I'm not up jumping around. I'm not singing. I'm definitely not playing an instrument. I'm just back there sitting back there and having coconut water and snacks for 4 hours. I don't know how they hold up, but yeah, heck of a show. They did a good job, and I think everything. We were really proud of the design, how it worked in the room. I'm glad the circle pulled off. I've been wanting to do a circle for these guys for a long time. Funny tidbit is there was a Pink Floyd Pulse, the Pulse concert had a big circle in it, and so every time in production design that you say you want to do a circle, everybody they wince and like, oh, you can't do it. Pink Floyd did it. It's gonna look just like Pulse, and so for this year, I'm pretty excited that, I've been determined to do it. And I think I used it in ways that it wasn't exactly like the Pink Floyd thing. We made it our own. And I also wanted to get away from, I feel like I've done UFO stuff every other year. So I was trying to really make it more traditional rock show, do more of the vaporwave content, and really a lot of just treated IMAG, trying to get them up on the screen so that you're even in the room getting cool perspectives of them performing with textures over it and making it colorful, and just really trying to make it a cool live experience. And I feel like we accomplished that. I felt pretty comfy with what we did. I was worried that the circle would be too much or one thing would stand out, but the whole thing just felt like it had good context and fit on the stage pretty well.
Yeah, it all seemed to gel.
And
be cool. I hope we take it on tour.
That would be awesome. I will say, watching from the live stream, we didn't get as many wide shots, but there was this moment in the transistor intro with the ring, and it like all spiraled together and kept connecting. That was so brilliantly done.
Oh yeah,
dude. That was phenomenal seeing that.
Yeah, that was almost like our big circle reveal, wasn't it? Yeah, I guess the first time I used the circle was in the new song. I mean, I had the circle on, but the first time we made it like a prominent thing was in the chorus of the new song. And then I kind of held it back until we got into transistor intro. And yeah, I built out that cool moment for Tim's solo where everything came down. We all had a moment where we were like, oh, that's cool. We were in the room, actually. I built that out in the room, and we all looked at it as it was happening. I built it out while they were rehearsing, and we all looked up. We're like, oh man, that's pretty cool. And so it's like, store that on a button, and it turned out pretty good.
So how long did it take you to put this package together?
Let's see. I start usually for 311 days. I start the design process. We start talking November. In this case, we had a fall run, so I really started working on it in November. And then my last big project of the year usually is a show called K-Rock Acoustic Christmas, which happens every year in LA, which actually 311 played this year. And that's my big last project of the year. And then I had a big job for TikTok in Phoenix the same week. After that, I try to take 3 or 4 weeks off or away from being on the road until the middle of January. And that's when I kind of go in a hole and try to design the show. And so this year we took a family trip to see my in-laws, and I just kind of brought my laptop with me and started working on it in the middle of December. I had renderings to present to the guys in the middle of January. About the time we were talking, I had just sent the renderings. I don't remember exactly when we did our interview, but I had sent the renderings in a bit before that. It had been approved. And then we kind of go out to vendors and get pricing, get it built. So really the design process starts about 5 or 6 months out from a 311 day. And then programming wise, this year I really dove into just trying to find new content. A lot of the programming gets done in the room. So in previs this year, I programmed the new song. I went through and programmed a bunch of the abstract songs that I knew they were going to play, like that transistor intro moment. I built out all the timing for that. But then I really dove into finding new content this year because it was kind of time to refresh some of our old content and find new stuff. And so I went out and just
scoured the internet. I found a bunch of different sources. I actually engaged with quite a few motion graphics artists directly and bought packages from them. And then I spent, you know, my allotted previs time, or the time we bill for, is 7 days. And I definitely spent the 7 days in front of the console, but for weeks leading up to 311 Day, every time I'm on a plane or every time I'm sitting in a hotel room, I got extra time, I pop on my laptop and start working on content. So there are quite a few motion graphics artists I engaged that I had create custom content for this, or I bought pre-made packages from them. Then I also just spent, I don't even know how many hours. I spent dozens of hours in After Effects just creating stuff on my own. I did some AI generated stuff. There's a picture in there of a UFO over a cornfield that I've played around with. I don't really have access to Sora yet, so we're not quite there yet, but I've definitely had AI generate stills that I've animated in After Effects, and then did just a bunch of combining different elements that I found. And then I spent a few days diving into the live IMAG effects too, in ways we haven't used it before. So we're using a software called Notch, and that kind of can create live effects where it like does a outline trace of the guys. That's how we remove the background. We're able to blend them in with the content live, and just a lot of cool stuff, new technology that I've put out for a long time, but I haven't personally had and utilized, that I was able to pull in this year. And then I made the content for the new song. I was super excited about that. That took a couple days.
You're gonna get it.
So I got into previs, started programming, and they kind of sent a final version of the set list or at least a close to final version of the set list with the new song on it. And Chad sent me a rough mix of the new song, and I kind of sat down to the idea of trying to make it a special moment. So actually, I got to credit my wife with this. So my wife kind of walks into the room and is like, "Oh my God, is that their new song? That's great!" And we're always ever hopeful when we hear the new songs. We're excited. We're hoping for the next down or the next love song. We all want to work for many years, and every time they put something out, it's great. And so she's like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And so first thing she does, she kind of sits down, has a glass of wine in her hand, is like, "Oh, you should do some kind of a car reference in this." And so I went out and started shopping for content, and I found this really cool motion graphics package of this like Initial D anime inspired car thing. And then actually my wife sat with me and kind of helped art direct a little bit. So we did the idea was to start down a road, an abstract road, futuristic, lonely, for that first verse. And then we have that really cool model 3D Ferrari or whatever it is. And the idea was to have it just glitch out, do cool pixel sorting and just turn it into pixels, and then take it into this digital kind of anime world for the chorus, and then rinse and repeat, come in and out of that. So yeah, it was really cool. I'm really proud of the content we put together for that. I sent it to them to approve. I sent it to Evan and Chad and the rest of the guys real quick to approve. To like, if everybody hold your peace. If you don't like anime cars, we need to know right now. This is pretty specific. But it got signed off on and put it up there. And so I was really excited about that. I'm excited to get the ISOs of the recording. I'm going to try to cut together a reel out of that, because I think and it was kind of a big moment to reveal the circle too. I was holding the circle back for that. And so in the chorus, there's this, the big heavy drop D riff where that circle turns on and articulates. And then we had fire. I saved the fire back for all of that too. And that was the first time we saw the pyro on the show, and tried to make it a special moment. And I think it's a great song, and it's heavy. I don't know. Is it their first song in drop D? You probably know better than I do. Be Love.
Yeah,
or is it not their first song?
I wouldn't know that actually.
I should ask them. I don't think they've ever had a song in drop D before. I've never, because Tim will play a whole set without changing guitars, right? So surely, and I've never heard him tuned down. I'll have to ask him. That's a good question.
Yeah. So let's talk about when you do extras, like when you do pyrotechnics, and like this year there's bubbles and things. What
The bubbles were my child.
were they? What
Yeah.
goes into considering those extra things?
Well, in our initial conversations, we have creative calls. We have a quick creative call kind of between me and Evan, or me and Bellis really, and Evan, and we pop questions out to the guys and ask what they want. And one of the big notes this year from them was they wanted pyro. we've shied away from pyro in the past. We were like, let's do extra lasers. And so I should mention that we've partnered with a company called Strictly Effects since 2016, I think. I met Grant Sellers, who's a senior account executive. I think he kind of runs the company. I met him. We were working together for an artist called The Weeknd on a project for Apple Music. It was when they announced Apple Music at the Worldwide Developers Conference. We're working together to put that moment together. So we were together for like a month at Sony Studios doing rehearsals. Got pretty close, and I was working on some 311 drawings then, and that was in like 2015. Back when Joe was still running it, but I was doing the drawings for Joe, and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm a huge 311 fan. I would love to do it." And so I didn't realize he's a super fan just like us, all the rest of us. We're working on 311 Days 2016 in New Orleans, and Grant cut us a killer deal, and kind of around the Super Bowl that year came out and helped us and gave us lasers. It was epic, and so we've partnered with him every year ever since. He does a fantastic job. So we've gone big into lasers. We've done pyro before. We shied away from it for a couple of years. We felt like we'd kind of done it before, and just from a usability standpoint, a gerb or a concussion or just a pyro thing is such an instantaneous moment that it happens and it goes away. It's special, but it just happens in an instant. But things like lasers are architectural and they stay for a long time. Like automation allows us to change the mood around. So I had for a lot, I just kind of shied away from pyro because of its fleeting nature. But frankly, we hadn't done it so long, and the band was like, man, we really want pyro. And man, was that not the right call? It really made the whole show special. So I immediately phoned up Grant and was like, tell me what you've got that's unique that we haven't done before. And he's like, oh man, we've got flames that turn blue. And because the guys have so many, songs that are kind of cool, jammy songs, Grateful Dead inspired stuff. So it'd be super cool to have some blue flame moments. So like, I think for the solo of Taid and a couple other songs that are more mellow songs you wouldn't typically have pyro in, we introduced that blue flame, and it turned out super cool. Creatures, I think we put it in a bunch of songs, and Grant's generous with the fluid, so we were able to use it a lot through the show. So that ticked the mark from the band of wanting pyro. I'm really glad we did it. And then we still had our lasers. Grant actually brought us in a bunch of 30-watt lasers on the floor, which were just absolutely stellar. And then we have audience scanning lasers, which is kind of a new technology. It's been around Europe for a long time, but it's just been cleared by the FDA here. It's totally safe, but it's audience scanning lasers that live so that they don't have to be terminated at a specific spot. They can fill the room, and those lived on the front of the pod. So as those trusses were moving in and out on the stage, the lasers were able to scan the audience, fill the room. It gave us this big, wide picture of lasers that were super special. And then we ended up with a little chunk of money left over from dropping. We were going to do a pyro rain curtain, and then we ended up with not a great spot to put it with all the automation, mother grid in the air. And so we ended up with a little chunk of money. And I have had this fantasy for years of doing the smoke bubbles. And so I set about finding these smoke bubble machines from a specific company that manufactures them, and we had to go through some hoops with the venue to get it approved, but we got smoke bubble machines. So they didn't fill the room quite as much as I hoped they would, but if you were down there near them, they were super cool. Every time they popped, this really cool rolling almost like when you breathe, if you bring out people who can blow perfect smoke rings when they're smoking a cigar, it's exactly what they look like, only like almost a foot wide when they popped. It was super cool. So we worked that in for, of course, the weed songs. You got hydroponic and Who's Got the Herb. I think I used them for both on that. And then I turned it back on for Gray Sky, Champagne, of course, bubbles. So yeah, those are the main moments we used the bubbles. And I wanted to use them a whole lot more, but I didn't want to overuse it, make it too cheesy. Just have it
Right.
bubble. We don't want to make it SpongeBob at the Super Bowl. It wasn't the Bubble Bowl.
Right.
But it was cool.
I think champagne is.
But it was cool.
Champagne is probably the most appropriate time to use those bubbles because you want to just make the room look like a glass of champagne.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of my favorite songs. I'm glad they played that. That was really cool.
Oh yeah, and it's so good. We rarely get to hear it, so I'm definitely glad they played it. And the smoke bubbles are cool. I mean, I didn't realize they were smoke bubbles until they were popping, and then I saw smoke, and I'm just going, "Oh my gosh, That is crazy.
Yeah, that came from my wife too. Actually, my wife was like, we attend a conference. It's called Live Design International, and it's like a trade show for production and stage design. I speak at it almost every year, and my wife comes along with me because she loves to come and see all of our friends that we work with and gossip. But we all gossip and just catch up. It's really you got to realize the people that do what we do for a living. It's a very small community, and we're all very close. And so a lot of us, if we're not working, we all carve out time to go. And that's one of the things every year that Crystal and I have both looked at was like, oh my God, look at the smoke bubbles. We've got to use that for 311 Day one day. We've been sitting on it for a long time, and so I was really excited to be able to get them out.
Sure. Let's talk about were there any other specific songs that maybe took a little extra work or
Man, it's all a blur. I don't know. I couldn't tell you at this point. Getting through it, I'd have to go back and watch some of it to know. I definitely put a bunch of time into the first few songs. They played How Do You Feel as their second song. And so that's one that, we definitely didn't have creative in the can for. So I put quite a bit of time into programming How Do You Feel and putting together a look for that. And then I forget what the third song. Yeah, really the first 8 songs or so, I spent quite a bit of time really trying to polish and make look good, so that we came out of the gate looking strong. I did new video, I think, for almost all of those. New video for Omaha Styley. I put a bunch of content in for that and for their walkout, and then just tried to put in as much as I could. The drum solo. Super excited about the drum solo. Brought the circle in way low over Chad. Tried to do like a portal effect. I've got some cool portal videos to share. I want to just really take it down, make that cage of light around him, and make that a cool moment. I'm super proud of how that turned out, and I think Chad did a fantastic job on the solo. Didn't want it to end. Could have been 3 times as longer, and we would have all hung on every note. It was super cool. So I was really proud of how that worked out. I think the circle helped. It was really cool, both for that and the bass solo. My goodness, Peanuts moment playing the going to Graceland was super cool, and bringing the stage down around him, that was super cool too. So both of those turned out. Solo moments are really cool. I'm excited to see how that evolves through the years.
Yeah, those are always different and unique and special moments for sure. And I love seeing you guys up there at the end of the 311 Day that they brought the whole crew out.
Oh, what a
And that was
class act!
such a great moment.
I wasn't gonna go. To get from front of house to the stage was gonna be such a nightmare. And we got the tag. They texted us before the show, invited us to join them for their bow, and I wasn't gonna go. And then I was like, I'm gonna take Crystal. And so we ran down there and did it. And what a classy thing for them to do. That was really nice of them. It's not none of this is about us. We're all just coming to work. They're the ones who've created this community. They've created the following that they have. How many people are. I think we're all fortunate to see them up there still playing some of these songs that didn't necessarily have mainstream success. It's a cult. It's an underground following, and
Right.
me and Evan describe it as Fight Club, right? Like you're out and you never know who you're going to connect with because of the band, right? And it's a cult following. So I think we're also lucky to just have this. I feel lucky to get to work. God, I feel so lucky to get to work on it. But I think all of us are just lucky to have this community, and so it's really their moment. And these guys are awesome. They've been playing together as the same team for, as the same band for 34 years now. And we are all so fortunate to see them play. And so every time they take the stage, it's a victory lap. And I think it's really cool that they, it was their moment, and it was very classy of them to bring us all out. That was really cool. Yeah. Well, hey, I'm gonna have to leave you guys. I've got another call starting pretty soon, but I want to say that we are already working on the one thing we decided to do. You asked how much time we spent, and typically we start a 311 Day 6 months out. We started talking about 311 Day at this. We started talking about 2026 at this one, 2024. We talked about it, and I've got some plans I'm advocating for. Kind of sitting in the can. I'm really excited to pull out.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us again, Bobby.
Did you lose me again?
A little bit in the middle there.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to talk to you guys. I love what you guys are doing with the podcast. Thanks for this. I'll send you up some follow-up pictures. And man, it's really cool. Somebody's archiving all this and doing all the work you guys are doing. I know it takes a lot of work and effort. Thank you guys for what you're doing for the community.
Thank you, Bobby, and we
All right,
appreciate your time, man.
It's 311 Odyssey signing off.